Everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you've been with us on this journey, you know we have spent our time diving deep into all things Microsoft, from Copilot to security to cloud, from productivity to platform innovations. But today, we are turning a page. We are incredibly excited to announce the launch of something new, something bigger, broader, and more collaborative. Welcome to Modern Minds. Modern Minds is our new podcast banner, a space where technology meets thought leadership. Here, we won't just be talking about Microsoft and its ecosystem, but also inviting brilliant minds and experts and innovators from across the tech to join us. Together, we will explore ideas, spark conversations, and share insights that matter from the front lines of modern work and innovation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ham, for the wonderful introduction to the Modern Minds launch. So it's truly exciting to see how this initiative is shaping the way we think, share, and innovate together. And now I'm thrilled to introduce someone who needs no introduction in the Copilot space, our guest speaker for today, Rajesh, joining us from Microsoft. So he's a Copilot solution architect with deep expertise in driving real world impact through AI and modern workplace technologies. So please join me in welcoming Rajesh. And in today's session, Rajesh is going to walk us through some of the most important topics in the Copilot space, including an overview of Microsoft 365 Copilot, evolving roles of Copilot agents, a closer look at Copilot Studio, and simplified insights into licensing modeling. And over to you, Rajesh, and the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Ram, and Gokul and Priya for inviting me in your podcast, and thanks for setting up the stage. For the audiences, thank you everyone for joining. Having the trust and expecting to learn something about Copilot. I'm sure expectations will be fulfilled today, and we'll be looking into beyond the basics, as our title says, the M365 Copilot Extensibility and also the licensing. So just a quick introduction of myself, having close to 19 plus years of experience with Microsoft technologies and currently working as a cloud solution architect for Copilot based out of Singapore. And the other areas I work are the modern work, specifically Teams voice and collaboration. I'm also running the publication here, which is mentioned medium.com/ng workplace, where we have multiple experts from Microsoft Stack who share their knowledge, the latest and greatest about the products, not only on the AI front, but also on the modern work and anything around Microsoft 365. So if you are interested to learn, and if you're just someone getting started with the M365 ecosystem, this would be a great start. Please feel free to subscribe for the publication for your learning. If you are interested to connect, you can scan this QR code to connect with my LinkedIn profile, and would be more than happy to connect with people for future collaborations, or maybe for question and answers, or even for just networking. With that being said, I'm just quickly take you to the agenda here today, the overview of the M365 Copilot Extensibility, and we will see the introduction about Copilot agents at L100 level, and what are the options for us to build agents using Agent Builder or the Copilot Studio, and also we will see the different agent pricing models available for an organization to get started with the agents. First things we see about the overview of the M365 Copilot Extensibility. So when you say extensibility, the word itself says you're going to extend the default M365 Copilot. Before we extend, we need to understand the basic anatomy of your M365 Copilot. So if you look at it here, this is the basic anatomy here, where you have your user experiences. This is your applications like your Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or even your business chat. And whenever you prompt, this is where you put your prompts and you get your responses. So behind the screens, you have this orchestrator, and you have the knowledge source, which is your graph, and also you have your skills in case if you're using it for image generation, or maybe to write a code, or even validate a code, or maybe any data analysis, right? And then the foundation models. So right now, the Copilot uses the GPT-4o, the LLM model, and all of your responses depends on the different inputs provided, or the combination of LLM, your graph, and also the orchestrator principles. And the orchestrator is the one which manages all your data governance, security, and responsible AI checks by Microsoft, and also the M365 security guidelines by your organization. So, this is the basic one, and how we are going to use this base to extend the M365 Copilot with others is what we are going to do. So far, what we have seen is all the out of the box features. And what if my organization data is outside of Microsoft 365, right? So, we all know many organizations or, all of your business workflows don't typically run exclusively on your M365. It might be scattered in M365, your on-premises or different applications or, from different vendor or different products, right? So how do we get that to the extensibility? So these foundation models, what you see in the basic M365, they generate responses based on the world knowledge. So, right, which means that any question which you ask about a product or maybe like to understand about a skill set, all this is acquired during the training of the model. And if your business is big enough, you might have, public information like your financial results or a quarterly results or even what are the services you are doing, right? However, it doesn't know any of this, intimate understanding of your business processes or your customer related information. So if you ask a question about your specific internal data, the foundation LLM will not know about it. So to create that enterprise value in this age of AI, you need to pair the M365 with your enterprise knowledge with these foundation models. So this is your enterprise data on the content within all your application silos as well as a unique business flows. So by grounding the LLM responses in your enterprise knowledge, you enable that deep and intimate understanding of your business. Imagine, trying to respond to the customers using Copilot rather than generic or any robotic responses. It can be underwhelming, right? So, but if you can give the model your communication guidelines or maybe the principles or maybe even better examples of how you have to respond to the customer along with the specific data reference, then the LLM can generate much more relevant and useful responses. So remember, your AI strategy is not only with the AI, but it is also anchored with how you are going to inject your data, which is called as a data strategy. So, you can extend your Copilot, the default out of the box M365 Copilot, by adding additional knowledge, which can enrich your organization knowledge, which is accessible by Copilot by ingesting your enterprise data and content and graph connectors. Then you can add skills by extending the actionable knowledge by transforming your apps or the plugins, which increases the user productivity across daily tasks and workflows. Then to enhance the overall workflows, combining the extra data sources that contain specific information or the domain knowledge in a declarative agent that includes instructions to guide the user on how and how the user has to go through the workflow and also matching the intent of the usage, right? So declarative copilots can seamlessly integrated with copilot connectors, what's called as graph connectors previously, and we will see later in our presentation what is a declarative agent. So this diagram is I would say the core diagram for if you are trying to understand what is extensibility, and it is divided into two main parts, right? So one on the left is we have the declarative agents, which includes Copilot connectors and the plugins. These are designed for internal users primarily and integrate seamlessly into your M365 apps with minimal coding. And on the right side, we have the custom engine agents, and these are powerful and flexible. They support both internal and external users and allow for the customers or custom user experiences, the orchestration, or even bring your own models for the agents. The access is controlled via M365 identity and Entra ID. Internal users are supported across both the models, while the external users are only enabled through the custom engine agents. From a UX standpoint, declarative agents rely on Microsoft 365 Hub, like your Outlook, Word, Excel, Teams, etc., while your custom agents allows to build a completely custom user experiences if required. When it comes to workflow instructions, both models can support custom prompt instructions, which means you can guide your copilot's behavior using the natural language customized to fit the specific workflows. When you can enable the retrieval augmented generation to fetch real-time data from external sources, for example, pulling live data from a ERP or CRM during a Copilot conversation, which is available as actions in both of your declarative and also the custom engine agents. Triggers are available only with your custom agents. These allows to kick off a Copilot experience based on an event, such as maybe a ticket submitted or being created in ServiceNow or maybe a deal being closed in your Salesforce. Knowledge, the very important one for all of the agents today, and this is where the grounding becomes key. Both the models support semantic grounding, which using Microsoft Graph data for internal context and extending with your own content in your graph connectors. Custom agents take it further with custom semantic index grounding, letting you build your own semantic index using content from any system, even it's from outside of your M365. The orchestration, the is pretty much the declarative agents leverages the default orchestration to manage your workflows across M365, wherein the custom agents allow you for a custom orchestration. We can define and control how the interactions and the flow across the system apps or the APIs goes in. So the foundation models at the base layer, we have the M365 Copilot Foundation model powered by Microsoft hosted OpenAI. And with the custom agents, you can use models from Azure AI Studio, or even you can bring your own models like it can be an LLM or it can be SLM or it can be depends on individual models depending on your organization and business requirements, allowing for a full flexibility for a regulated industry proprietary LLMs as well. So summarize, right? So M365 Copilot gives us a full spectrum of extensibility from built-in plugin to play connectors to fully customizable AI agents. So it's about as an organization to choose the right model based on your needs, the speed and simplicity of the declarative agents, or you can choose to go full control and customization with the custom agents. And here we have a small component called Graph Connector, which is part of your M365 extensibility. And we will see what a Graph Connector is before we dive into the world of agents. So graph connectors are nothing but a M365 component, and which is already there in your M365, which enables to bringing external data into your Microsoft environment, right? So it's going to ground all of your external data along with your M365 so that I can use it with your M365 Copilot. These external data can be retrieved by you have list of graph connectors in your M365 and can be searched and then can be set up, right? So these connectors can be a pre-built connectors or maybe a third-party connectors which is available from a Microsoft app source or even your custom built sources, right? And if you look at it here, these are some of the available graph connectors out of the box. You can go to your admin center. Under the settings, you will have this search and intelligence. The moment you click on data sources, you will see all of the data connectors here. So some of the examples are enterprise website clouds, or maybe if you have an on-prem, enterprise website, or even for if you want to do WordPress, right? If someone is in an organization or a team is doing a blog post and you want that content of the blog post to be included in your M365 Copilot responses, you can use these connectors. And the Microsoft strives much to add more and more connectors day to day. As you can see, some of the connectors like Zoom meetings or AHA features, or even for the Dropbox or in preview stages. So if your organization has enabled preview for you, you can use these connectors as well to test and play around. Otherwise, you can use the graph connectors, which is available for you to use it. And once you establish the connection, you are good to go to understand, or you can have your Copilot reason over the data sources here. Now, as I mentioned, let's dive into the world of the agents. So we saw the graph connectors. The next one is about the declarative agents, right? So not specifically, but in general, what are agents, right? How do they work? This is a kind of a question which I get it from many of the customers worldwide, or even from my colleagues in the community, or someone who's getting started with Copilot, right? And how do they work? What is the difference between an agent and an M365 Copilot? So I would say agents are your AI assistants, right? That can help you optimize your business processes or even enhance your productivity across all of your businesses. They are available in wide area of capabilities, tools, and level of complexity depending on your organization requires. So when we say agents, right, there are a few type of agents that span the whole spectrum, right, from simple to advanced level of complexity depending on your requirement. So let's start off with the simplest one, retrieval agents. So retrieval agents are designed with specific instructions on how to behave, their personality, and their overall objectives. They follow the predefined rules and guidelines set by the creators. And the task agents are tightly connected to specific workflows or processes They operate based on a knowledge, skills, and also rule-based automation. The primary purpose is to automate repetitive tasks where you have multiple or multi-step action in your workflow. And finally, we have the more advanced and the complex one, the autonomous agents, which operates individually with minimum human intervention, dynamically planning everything and learning from the overall processes. They adapt to changing conditions to make decisions without having human intervention frequently. So let's see some of the examples of the spectrum of the agent side. When I say simple or the retrieval agents, like an IT help desk or a project tracker, where you just ask a question to understand what is the status, or maybe some how to guides, like if I want to connect my corporate network, or how do I set up my printer, or maybe my laptop is unable to connect to SharePoint or OneDrive, and how do you fix it, right? For the general information. Wherein, if you look at the task-based agents, you have this process called, or maybe agents like device refresh or expense report, where the answers are not straightforward. For example, if you are requesting a new laptop, it has to go to approval, a process of your manager or maybe your IT department. And once they approve, they have the procurement. So there involves a step of multi-team organization, and also it involves multi-step processes, wherein the task-based agent comes in handy. And finally, the autonomous agents, where it happens everything automatically. Lead generation, like a particular agent, if has identified and researched 15 new leads for you to review, maybe you have a source. Remember I said triggers are only available with the autonomous agents, right? So any action or any particular task which triggers the agent workflow, and you can get this agents put into picture, and if that incident happens, it triggers the agent, and the agent will carry on with the process workflow how we have said. Similarly, for customer support, before escalating call to a real person, we can have a customer support agent interactively working on. Rather, the difference between an IT help desk agent is just a question and answers, wherein a customer support is flexible. It can have a natural language, human like conversation to provide support for your customers or even for your internal users as well. So there are countless ways to optimize and reinvent your business processes with the agents, right? There is no definitive way you have to use these agents for this purpose, right? So the possibility is endless here. And whether you want to transform your complex and dynamic processes, or maybe reimagine the possibilities with multi-agent collaboration, or enable every user to augment their jobs, Copilot agents extend across your ecosystem to meet your business needs. And these agents can handle highly available variable situations in real time, using judgment to plan the steps and perform specialized tasks required to complete the job. Agents can collaborate with multiple users and even with other agents to accomplish the task that span disconnected systems, or maybe long time horizons, or even across organizational boundaries. And this all happens using a natural language. Agents can be enable your employees to design and operate custom tailored agents for their workflows. So if you are looking for any agents, apart from the first party, you have a lot of agents in your app store. We can go to your agent store from your Copilot window, and some of the examples are Copilot for finance, Copilot for sales, or Copilot for service, which are called as first party agents provided by Microsoft. And there are some third party agents that you can integrate these agents into your workflow. You can add it to your existing process, or you can create new workflows using these agents. For example, the seismic, and let's imagine your seismic agent can help your sales team to get trusted answers to any questions, or maybe the content to improve the overall sales process right in their flow of the work. They can ask for relevant case studies or content to prepare for a customer meeting, or even get a sales insights during the meeting, or they can also provide customer with the next step. Similarly, there is a Jira agent here, which is called as Copilot Cloud Extension, which can help streamline the workflows in areas like IT. For example, an IT support person could get summarized emails, or maybe convert an email from a user into a new Jira help desk ticket, and or maybe he can use it to research any particular issue and document the findings to the Jira task, or even he can update the status of the task assigned to that particular user right from the Copilot for M365 without having a need to open the Jira portal, sign in again, and get diverted. Now we have seen an overview of what are agents is about, what are the different type of agents available, and also the spectrum, how it is spanned across your organization, how it can be utilized. Right now, how do I start build an agent? That's a question. Like I need to know where should I start, how should I start, and what are the different options available for me in the table. Right. So the first thing is I want to say, if you are a an end user, maybe you are not specifically a business owner, business process lead, or maybe even don't want to be a department head, but just like a consumer, right? Still you can create agents by using the agent builder in your M365 Copilot chat. Then you have the builder, a full-fledged studio experience for makers who like to automate business processes, who are a business owners or try to solve complex problems. And then there is called as for developers, which they can integrate the native Copilot Studio and also use the complexities and the best of the Azure AI, or even they can bring in their own models, or for our external sources to for completely for developers. So this is precisely the use cases, you creating a custom engines where from A to Z you have your custom experience design, right? So we have categorized that into a no code. I would say this comes in between no code and low code, which means that requirement for you to create an agent using a Copilot Studio, really you don't need to be a technical geek or a coding expert to do this, but you need to have some technical knowledge to build an agent here. Wherein for the end users, it doesn't require any knowledge. All you have to do is just click on the interface and you can start building it. And then the pro code is super complex for technical geeks like who are expertise in coding and developing different applications or products. So declarative agents, right? So we have declarative and custom agents. So what are some of the samples of declarative agents, how it can be used, right? So these can enable you to customize your default M365 app experience to help you meet the unique business needs, right? So when you build a declarative agent, you have options to provide instructions, actions, and knowledge to tailor the Copilot experience for your business scenario. They run on the same orchestrator, foundation models, and the trusted AI services which powers your M365 Copilot. And by building these agents, you can optimize your collaboration, increase your productivity, and streamline the workflows in your organization. Some of the examples here, which I see, is employee IT self-help. Imagine where your employees can resolve the technical issues without relying on their internal IT help desk, where you don't want to wait for your the agent to come up with you and work with you, find the right time to work both of you and fix the issue. Rather, they can use an agent to fix the issue themselves, right? We can streamline and simplify these workflows by building a declarative agent and expedite the resolution of the common issues. So this agent draws, internal knowledge. It might be a SharePoint site or even from a document, and it can provide employees very fast and effective assistance while reducing the cost of the organization. And then there is a real-time customer support with seamless system integrations. Assume you have a support team dedicated to provide customer support while also monitoring your customers' live order status. You can increase the support team's productivity by enhancing your existing processes into a declarative agent that's seamlessly integrated with your plugin for the order management system to access and provide real-time order updates to the customers whenever required. So this is a very high level overview of different tools availability for you to build declarative agents, right? So the first one is a Copilot Studio Agent Builder, which offers a very simple interface for business users to build a declarative agent. All you have to do is simply describe what the agent should do or maybe should not do, and author an agent with simple configuration experience. For users with no coding experience, that want to customize a Copilot to increase your personal and group productivity, this is a great place to start with. From writer coach to onboarding buddy, users can easily create and share the agents that answers questions from your knowledge sources. You can optionally have your agent generate image, process data, and solve math problem as well. And SharePoint agents are declarative agents that run within SharePoint sites and teams. They provide based on the data which is available in your organizational SharePoint implementation. And this is specifically for users who want to customize your Copilot to a specific purpose, or maybe even for a specific site, document library, or a set of files for Copilot to search. So these two comes under the no code approach, where you can build your agents right from an interface, right? It doesn't need any kind of coding instruction, coding knowledge, wherein all you need is just to know how to give instructions and give the knowledge source. Then the low code one, the studio allows you to create agents using a drag and drop interface. And the difference between this no code and the low code is this one gives you more control over your business logic and your workflow automation, allowing you to create declarative agents with advanced features such as a custom API action, adaptive calls, or even CI/CD integration. And then comes the pro code, which is nothing but your agents toolkit. And if you're someone who's already into development, you would have heard about Teams toolkit, right? It's evolution, which has been renamed to Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit to match with the technology here, which has more advanced features than the Copilot Studio with the custom API actions, adaptive cards or CI/CD integrations, and the developers who need full control over the coding environment, also the source control or even the APIs, this is the best path to go. Okay. So if you are using a Copilot Studio agent builder for a no code, all you have to do is just go to your Copilot screen, your M365 Copilot, and on the right side you will see something called create agents. And you click on create agents here, and you will see this pop up wherein you have two choices. You can create a prompt, create an agent by using a natural language. You can say what should this agent should do and what is your expectations, and this agent builder will automatically create the agent for you. And as and when you progress, you will see on the right side your agent will be getting ready. If not, you can also manually choose to configure these agent settings where you have to do all of the setup manually, right? So here you have certain limitations. Maybe we can see that, or in a later episodes sometimes. But when you go to configure, you have different choices on what to choose. Whether you can block the agent to not to generate images or encoding. You can use it simple for a question and answers. You have all those options, right? And then with the Copilot Studio, right? So basically, this is how a portal looks like. You can go to aka.ms/Copilot Studio, which will open up a dedicated interface for you, which is a graphical low-code tool for building agents and the agent flows, right? One of the I would say, standout features for the Studio is its ability to connect with other data sources using either a pre-built or a custom plugins, which means that your declarative agents or your on your agent builder can include sources from only SharePoint sites, your emails, or maybe specific files, right? Studio provides much more flexibility when it comes to data sources, which helps your users to create and orchestrate sophisticated logic, ensuring that the agent experience are both powerful and also very intuitive. And the platform's low coding experience puts the power of the AI at the user's fingertips, making it accessible even to people without extensive technical backgrounds. Right. So this is how the interface looks like. And if you look at a new action, you can either use a prompt to define an action, or you can go to this default connectors, or maybe it can be from a conversation, or even you can include a Power Automate flow into your agent workflow. Then comes pricing model. Okay, now I know, I know what are the agents that are available, and what are the options available for me to decide on which path to take, and I know the places where I can start building my agents, right? Okay, fine. I have decided to give an agent, right? And how I'm going to be charged, or how can I implement this, right? So let's see about the pricing models, right? Initially, it was only this pack called message packs, wherein Microsoft had a tenant-wide message pack with 25,000 messages per month, and it's a $200 per pack per month, right? So here, a lot of organizations shared their feedback with Microsoft, whereas in like the organization or even this pack is underutilized, or sometimes it is overutilized. So what happens with the underutilized is the $200 payment you make, right? It's not getting utilized. And the thing is, you need to use this every month, right? So even the users are using it or not, you need to add a pack, because you don't know when the demand is going to peak up. On the other side of the story is where the organization get overutilized, right? Many people start interacting with the agents, and when messages are consumed, I have to do multiple times to add this pack. Otherwise, the agent will stop working. So organizations were requiring to have a balanced option, whether I know exactly, for organizations, I know exactly this is how the consumption is going to be. And I know number of messages will be consumed for my department or my users. Wherein the other side is, I don't know what is going to happen. All I have to do is just introduce the agents to my organization, and I need to forecast. Okay, I need to maybe do an analysis of 3 months or 6 months of usage, and then I decide which have to go, right? And that is when Microsoft introduced this pay as you go model, which is a metering method, and it doesn't require any fixed pack or anything per month, right? So as and when once you set up in your organization, and it consumes, like, per message it costs around $0.01. And we have different options available when it comes to this pay as you go model, and we will see each of the options how it's going to work. Okay, and this is available with your Azure as well, and it's part of your MACC. So if you have your MACC for Azure consumption, this can also be decremented from your MACC. So when I say pay as you go model, right, how do I calculate that? How the system knows what kind of interaction I'm doing, how many responses are generated, and how many messages are calculated accordingly, right? So here we need to know something about the orchestration models, right? When you ask a question about an agent, depending on the agent type, the orchestration behind, what kind of response it generates, what kind of knowledge sources, the skills, your response will be generated, and depending on the number of responses for each of your question, you will be build accordingly, right? So here are the top most generative, or I would say, orchestration models which is utilized by the agents across the globe. One is a generative mode, which means that in the process of the workflow, you use your AI or maybe LLM based engines to generate a response. It's like your chat GPT or your copilot chat, where you have an agent for a specific task, and if your workflow doesn't have the response, it will use the Gen AI to provide the response. The other one is the classic mode, the default one, wherein you define each of the questions in the workflow and then each of the answers what you want to have. So this will be focused strictly on what you have here. And if a user asks a question, which is something not in the workflow, the agent cannot answer. Okay, that is when you have the option of using generative AI, wherein it provides some form of answer. Similarly, you have different orchestration methods like web grounded. So web grounded are nothing but it generates a dynamic response based on the web as a knowledge source, right? So if you are creating an agent on your studio, you can add a public website, or even from your agent builder, you can enable this option called web search, which will provide dynamic response like how you're using your M365 Copilot within your agent. Then the tenant graph grounding. So this one is how we can balance out, as let's say you have a user who has an M365 Copilot license, right? And once the license is assigned, the user will have all the information about the graph grounded data. Now, I don't know, really doesn't have the requirement to give license to all the users in my organization, but some part of the users require tenant data to be grounded in their usage, right? So for them, they can use the tenant grounded data, which enhances the AI agents to be updated or contextually aware with the knowledge of your M365 or even with their external data, offering a built-in security and inheriting data access across governance principles. So this is mostly, you can enable this by, enabling the enhanced search results in the generative AI tab under the settings when you're creating the agent for you. The next one is agent actions, where it leads orchestrations for any triggers or specific topics, or even a Power Platform connectors or the flows. And also, if you're integrating any tools, it can utilize this, right? Then you have this text and generative AI tools, which are specialized action that extend the capability by teaching them to perform specific tasks, leveraging a combination of the prompt engineering, model configuration, code execution, and also the knowledge retrieval. So there are three types of tools, which are basic, standard, and premium, and depending on the underlying LLM of the prompts. So why and how this can be used, or is like basically to provide instructions that minimize the ambiguity and improve consistency with the agents, resulting in a very high value responses that align with the objective of the business process. And you can build these prompts as an action, or you can call from any one of the topics. And the last orchestration is the agent flow action, specifically if you're creating an agent workflow, and you can use this predefined sequence of actions in a flow to execute the repetitive task really quick. So the makers can add intelligent steps for processing the whole information, making the agent to take a decision, simplifying the complex steps, and much more than that. Okay. So what is the cost, right? So depending on the orchestration mode, as we discussed right now, the generative, classic, tenant grounded agent actions, right? With the Copilot license users and non-Copilot license users, If not, if you are using an agents built with Copilot Studio, how the cost is going to be, right? So basically, if you see with the license users, it's no cost for them because it's already included in the license for all the web grounded, classic, generative, or a tenant grounded data, or even for an agent actions, right? And for the non-licensed users, web grounded is absolutely free because it's not going to cost anything. Wherein a classic answers provides consumes one message, a generative answers consumes two message, a tenant grounded data consumes 10 message for one response, right? So all this conception, imagine it's just for one response. A response can be a combination of classic and tenant grounded, or response for it's a combination of multiple orchestration model depending on the agent and also the kind of questions you are asking. And if the user consumes an agent action, then per response cost you 5 messages. So similarly, you can see depending on the basic and standard and premium of the AI tools, the consumption varies, right? So this is a very useful slide where you can understand about how much it costs you. It will help you to calculate if you are creating an agent, how much can be utilized, or even you can have an idea how much it's going to be charged in your pay as you go model, right? So, for example, is a customer support agent, and you are asking, or maybe a customer is asking 4 questions around policies, right? And 2 questions around a product handling issue. So, for a classic answer, 4 questions provides you four responses, okay? And then each response is one message, and the four answers is 4 messages. Then you have the generative, wherein one response costs you two messages utilization, and totally there is two responses, so total it's four plus four, 8 build messages for this simple conversation, right? Assuming that the customer has disabled generative orchestration and also disabled enhanced search, which provides the other grounding methods. Then there is a sales performance agent, wherein internal agent deployed in Copilot Chat is helping employees with a range of topics related to sales performance. And there's two difference here for a Copilot license users and a non-licensed users, right? So Copilot license users doesn't use any cost, wherein the other users, it uses its generative model or the tenant graph grounding data. It provides 4 responses, and for one response, the utilization is 10 message, total of 40, and for the generative age. So totally for this conversation alone, it builds 48 build messages, right? So these are some of the examples where you can use it in different scenarios, and you can plan if you are rolling out your agents in your organization under the pay as you go model. And I would like to provide you this agent right map, which means that what type of licenses will they have, what are the options for you, and what is if the user has a license, doesn't have a license, or neither you have a Copilot or a Maker license, right? When I say Maker license, it's nothing but a dedicated Copilot Studio licenses, okay, which is a different one from your M365 Copilot licenses. So if your organization has a dedicated Copilot Studio license, that's called as a Maker license, right? So what are the features included, and what is under the consumption model, and what are the features which is not even available irrespective of the license which you have, right? So this is also another a useful slide which gives us an overall idea for us to plan for what the right type of agents for the right type of use to generate the right type of responses, right? So with that being said, this is going to be the end. I would like to say thanks to Ram, Priya, and Gokul for the team to giving this opportunity. And these guys are the industry experts who have hands-on experience with Copilot, and they also do blogging, and also they have this weekly podcast. And if you're interested in their podcast, you can scan this QR code here and you can sign up for the podcast to keep up with Copilot and other Microsoft technology stack. And thank you, everyone. And also, I would like to share this resources QR code. If you can scan this QR code, if you want to further study, or if you're already into Copilot, if you want to enhance your knowledge on agents, this will be really useful for you. Thank you so much, and over to you, Ram and Gokul.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. It was quite very informative because we have seen about agents, but a session about agent extensibility is much more required. So prior to the session, we sent out an email and we got few questions around this. So I know we covered this around the spectrum of agents, but since this is a scenario based for their specific requirement, I would like to pose that question here. So this person has mentioned the question is about their company uses M365 Copilot. So they have a team marketing team, so which basically uses Salesforce as a CRM. They pull data from the external CRM system, so that with that they'll be able to create customer summaries during the meeting. So what the question is, they want to trigger follow-up actions like creating a lead or updating the contact, right? So they just want to know how this can be achieved by, or what are the options available in integrating these external actions into Copilot, and which is the right extensibility path they would choose. And they would want to know a detailed information of how this can be implemented in their environment.
Oh, that's a great question, Priya. So I understand. I'm sure this is from an organization who are not beginners or getting started with M365 Copilot, where they are already on. They have stepped on to the extensibility path, right? So yes, to integrate a real time data from your Salesforce, or maybe enabling actions like creating leads, or I would say I would consider two options here. One is the declarative agents. If the data, you have access to the data, and also actions which can be defined through the API, right? So I can create a plugin, or maybe an invoke a Salesforce API to integrate with my M365 Copilot to ground all the Salesforce related data along with the, in the interface of your M365 Copilot. And the second option I would say is custom engine agents. If the business requirement involves complex logic, or maybe a real time queries, or even they want to generate their own RAG, right? I would go for the custom agents, which allows you to ingest the RAG with the external data, and orchestrate complex workflows, and possibly even they have an option to bring their own models for tailored summarization. Because I have seen many organizations across, in my experience, they have their own models within the organization which have been trained with organization specific data, right? Not with their default web grounded or a graph grounded. Rather, they have a model which has more details about the organizational information. For example, if you're searching something for Microsoft, you want to understand the history of Microsoft, or maybe a specific period of within Microsoft, right? uh, uh, this custom LLMs have, or these customs models have been trained with much more in depth of data which are not available with public consumption, right? So they have detailed insights. So these are the different options available. And looking at your question, right, and the way they want to achieve, I would say to have a personalized and a dynamic data access, maybe even multiple CRM actions are required. I would say custom engine agents are the best, which provides much more flexibility for, when it comes to the data retrieval, or maybe the overall control, the logic execution, or even the orchestration of that particular agent.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. I believe that answered, I mean, you were able to answer it very clearly. So, yeah, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. Yeah, this was spot on, right? I think it should be super helpful for the person who's looking for that information. So, here's a question that often comes up from organizations exploring Copilot Studio, right? So, for a company who wanted to go into a hybrid model, right? So, because it's something new, Copilot, where I don't know if every organization would go for a full-fledged license for all the users. So, rather, only a subset of users who have a Copilot license, but the rest of them would still need to access, like, or interact with agents, right? So what are the different licensing options available in Studio, and how organizations can actually have the right balance between that functionality and user access?
Great question. Yeah, in a hybrid model, I would say the studio offers flexible licensing. The users, there's like two different type of users, right? Who build or manage the Copilot agents, and they definitely need a maker license, which is a Copilot Studio licenses, for them to have the complete flexibility to create agents. Wherein the other side of the users are just going to be interacting with the agents. It might be through a website, or it might be from a Teams channel, or maybe even from the Copilot app. For them, there is no requirement for Copilot license until, unless and until the organization is rolling out the M365 Copilot to all the users, right? They can use the metered method to use with agents, right? So as long as the agent is shared appropriately, they don't need a dedicated license to use it. So here, the organization have an options to mix and match the licensed and the non-licensed users to enable the broader access of the agents while keeping the licensing cost optimized. This is one of the, again, much asked question, where like, how do I decide Because, for example, if I have an agent and I give it to a non-licensed user, and looking at the consumption and the number of messages consumed, what I feel like sometimes I know I feel I should give the license to him, like the M365 Copilot license. That would be a better option for me rather than spending in the pay-as-you-go model. So as an organization, you need to identify and analyze this trend to identify, you choose whether, which one provides the best value for you, either providing the user a dedicated Copilot license, or depending on the agentic use cases and how much messages they are consuming, you are ready to go with pay as you go model. So this comes with a kind of a usage with 3 to 6 months. You analyze, you monitor, and you make an informed decision. So this setup is pretty much ideal for scenarios where you have the power users, right, and also the just end users, and the organization has these flexible choices to make on how they can implement. This also help them to scale the M365 Copilot adoption. At the same time, they can also have the agentic experience as well.
Thank you, Rajesh. I think that summarized well. And also, I think what I've seen is any dedicated user with a Copilot license wouldn't go into the metered model. So the consumption would happen through their M365 Copilot license, which is something really good for the organizations to think of. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to pick a question that came in our comment session, so which I felt it is a little interesting. So I thought of asking you directly, Rajesh. So the question is, I'm just getting started with Copilot and would love to hear your advice. So what are some key things a beginner should keep in mind when starting out? Are there any tips, best practices, or common pitfalls to watch out for that could help make the learning curve easier?
Okay, great question. I'm sure that someone who is interested in Copilot has asked this question. So here I would say again, it has two perspectives, right? One is an end user, okay, a person who uses the M365 Copilot in their day-to-day work, like Outlook, Word, Teams, Excel, PowerPoint, just to do their day-to-day task, right? So for them, I would say if you have a Copilot license, start using it across all the apps. At least spend some time on a daily basis to see how it works, right? So because the reason I say that is the more you work along with your Copilot, it's a win-win for both of you. You know how exactly your Copilot responds to you for different scenarios, or maybe different prompts, or different type of details you provide with the prompts. And for Copilot can help you understand your user persona, the kind of context which you are working, and also your role relevant responses. So how it helps Copilot is to provide you a tailored response, more relevancy and more contextual responses. For example, if you are a project manager and if you're asking about a specific topic, or maybe a status of the project, the way it responds to a project manager or a project engineer depends on a lot of factors, right? That's how what Copilot learns from you. What kind of response should I give it to this guy, because he's a project manager. Okay, this guy is a project engineer, or maybe he's a customer, right? So what response should I give it? So depending on how you want to use it, you can use it. And I would say use it across it and try to experiment with it, right? And if you're able to achieve ABC today, go for the next step, right? Including more prompts, try to integrate much more into your workflow from an end user perspective, and see how much time you can save. For example, I use it all of my personal uses for my LinkedIn post, or my even if I want to create a personal documents or a travel plan, I just use my Copilot, right? So this is where it saves a lot of time for me. And if you're in an organization where if you're responsible in driving AI, driving the adoption, the way you have to take it is, the first thing is introduce your M365 Copilot and let the organization get familiar with it, right? So let them get use of what is available out of the box. Let them get familiar with it and let them know how to use it in their daily workflow to improve their productivity. And then you introduce, uh, I would say, no code to them. Okay, teach them how they can build declarative agents within their Copilot licenses, right? And if the users are not having licenses, tell them, hey, this is how it will be charged, and these are the business processes you can use your agents. And once you're fine with it, introduce them to the low code agentic type, integrating with multiple sources, and then from there you can scale it up depending on the business requirement. So I would say, rather than directly asking someone who hasn't even seen a Copilot window, you give them the license and you tell, hey, from tomorrow you can start using these agents. It's not going to help to learn Copilot for them, and also as an organization you will not get an ROI for that. So you always have to start from your foundations and slowly scale it up. Make sure your users are trained, provide them the necessary information, documents, materials, create a COE for you to scale up the utilization and also the knowledge of for the use cases. And once they understood how the base model or the base Copilot works, they can put it to their ability to include multiple business processes, or maybe they can unleash their creativity to solve their team's own challenges. Right. So hope that answers the question for you.
Yeah, Rajesh. So the message what I take it from your response is the importance of starting small and experimenting with Copilot in real workflows and understanding its capabilities, engaging in hands-on practices, and staying updated with new features. Right. So thank you.
Exactly.
Great. So, yeah, thank you so much, Rajesh. So, that brings us to the end of this episode. So, we are so thankful because you covered so much valuable insights in breaking down what is a Copilot, what is a agent, studio, and also the relevant licensing, right? So, I came across a recent joke where AI is not taking away our jobs, but it's actually borrowing it without no return date. So it's time for us to compete with AI. So to do that, we need to start learning AI and Copilot where we can master them, right? So it is not actually taking our jobs; it's we need to master them. So to everyone who joined this session, a great thank you, and we believe that this session was insightful, and we had a lot of conversation with Rajesh, so who's an expert in this field, and we are looking forward for more sessions. So if you feel and you need any specific topics to be covered in future, kindly DM us or put it on the comments, and you can follow us for more episode. And thank you everyone for joining this session today. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Rajesh.